so the Senate just dropped its version of the major student loan reform that they want to do, and the budget reconciliation bill, what the GOP is calling the Big Beautiful Bill Act. So we have had this House version for about a month, and if the Senate version passes, it will be an unmitigated disaster for student loan borrowers. I've just finished reading this bill, and it would be catastrophic for many people. Now, let me explain what is in the bill, just so that folks can know what the Senate is proposing to do with student loans. So specifically, the Senate wants to cap professional school borrowing at $200K instead of $150K like the House wanted, but that is the only part of the bill that I can find that makes the Senate version slightly better than the House version. So specifically, the Senate version of the bill would force everybody that needs to borrow anything at all past July 2026 into the GOP's RAP plan, repayment assistance plan. Now, in the Senate version, it makes you file jointly for taxes instead of filing separately for taxes, which means that anybody who's enrolled in school that needs to borrow after July 2026 would effectively be forced to file jointly and include their spouse's income or future spouse's income in their repayment. So I'm going to give an example. Imagine being a first-year dental student at NYU that just finished up your first year. You borrowed $150K, you're borrowing $150K next year, and in 2026 and 7, you'll be borrowing, if this new bill passes, an additional $150K in each of those 2 years, $300K total to graduate. So you graduate with $600K, and when you signed up, you were promised 10% of your income for 20 years. Those were the promises, and you could file separately. Now, if they go through with this bill and they make you file jointly, imagine going from 20 years and you can file separately to 30 years, 10% of your AGI with no deduction, basically, except a very small one for kids, and you have to include your spouse or future spouse's income in your payment. That is punitive. That is breaking contracts. That's breaking promises. That's crazy. The other big thing I wanted to share is Parent Plus borrowers would be the most screwed of all in this bill if it were to pass. What this bill does in the Senate version is say, unless you have already consolidated and your Parent Plus loans, when I'm talking about this, if you have not consolidated your Parent Plus loans and you were signed up for an income-driven repayment plan, including ICR, if you've not done both of those things by the time the bill passes, you would be blocked from ever getting on any IDR option ever, period. What the freaking heck? Are you kidding me? Do they even know what the heck that would do to hundreds of thousands of borrowers? Maybe they don't care, but I think they need to realize what the impact's going to be if they pass this, because if you pass it, any Parent Plus borrower with a six-figure balance that hasn't already gotten a plan for it, that's already signed up for some kind of ICR or IDR plan, would be permanently blocked from ever accessing anything. Well, what if you didn't have a lot of money and that's why you took out Parent Plus loans in the first place, and you have over 6 figures of Parent Plus loans? What are you supposed to do if you can't afford the payment? Your only option would be a standard type of repayment plan if this bill were to pass, if you're not already on some kind of IDR option. And then if you can't afford $2,000 a month, well, they're going to take it from they're going to wage garnish you, take it from your assets or income or something. They'll garnish you. They'll put you in default, wreck your ability to qualify for anything. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely freaking ridiculous. I've seen a lot of crap in my day as a student loan consultant and founder of Student Loan Planner. I've seen a lot of crazy, very partisan proposals. This is the most partisan proposal in terms of the damages to student loan borrowers that I've ever seen in nearly 10 years of doing this. The GOP proposals back in 2017, 2016 would have limited PSLF, but they were more reasonable. It was, let's just codify repay. Let's just maybe put some reasonable limitations on what schools can do. This is saying, we don't give a bleep about student loan borrowers. We don't give a bleep about professionals that are currently enrolled in the program or people who are promised existing terms on their contract that borrowed and made very serious life decisions based on the terms. And I'm not just talking about the SAVE plan. That's one argument, right? But the IBR plan, that was written out by an act of Congress that people borrowed with that in their promissory note, and you're just going to rip that out from under them and force them into 30 years of repayment and encourage divorce by borrowers filing, basically splitting up intentionally to lower their payments, because if they can't, they have to choose between paying their mortgage and staying married. Is this the pro-family party? I'm just being very frustrated right now, kind of pissed off on behalf of borrowers that they would propose this. Right now it's a proposal, but I was expecting the Senate version, to be frank, to be more moderate than the House version. Instead, it's worse. It's a lot more conservative than the House version. A lot more punitive than the House version. You can say at least the House version allowed married borrowers to file taxes separately and didn't encourage divorce. The Senate version encourages divorce. Do they realize that for borrowers? Do they want highly educated borrowers to continue the long-term secular trend towards nobody getting married? Because that's what this bill does. So I'm sorry if I sound a little pissed off. I'm not trying to be. I'm usually pretty calm. I'm not some sort of partisan either. Like, I hope people don't think that. Like, I'm just calling what I think are balls and strikes here. Like, they also are not thinking about what this does to the primary care shortage. The primary care shortage would be massively amplified if this bill were to pass. Most of the folks that go to the most prestigious schools, that have great scholarships, that, can qualify for private loans, those folks in a lot of cases go into the highest paid specialties for medicine, those folks will be fine. A lot of the folks that, go into maybe some of the other schools that are maybe a little bit less prestigious, that might be a little bit more expensive, those folks are disproportionately likely to go into primary care. So if you cap medical school borrowing at $200K, including any other prior programs, like maybe like a post-bac or something like that, why would you go into primary care? Why would you do it? You can't get your residency anymore for PSLF. What would be the point? Because you're a good-hearted person that just loves borrowing private student loans to make a lower salary than you could make doing something else that you could more easily do with less stress. So again, I just think that this bill is so poorly thought through and so poorly designed that they should go back to the drawing board. Now, I'm just a guy. Who cares about my opinion? I've advised billions of dollars in student loan debt. Some would say I have a conflict of interest here and things continuing to be complicated, so I continue to make money. Sure, go ahead. I don't care about being attacked. People can attack me. It doesn't matter what is good for me. What matters is that borrowers are not going to be absolutely destroyed by this. And a lot of borrowers' finances will be destroyed by this, particularly people that don't follow resources like this that get educated on this stuff. Like the people that, have gotten plans or paying attention to their finances or paying attention to their IDR options. Those people at least will be kind of okay. Like, for example, if you're already on an income-driven option, you get put onto the old IBR plan. That is survivable. If you were a forgiveness case before this passed, you're still a forgiveness case after that passed. So that's a little bit of my calm take on this, is if you are already, on an IDR plan, your plan is old IBR after this, if this were to pass, and that would be doable for most people, right? But if you are not already on an income-driven plan, like anybody who is not already an existing borrower on an income-driven plan that has 6 figures of debt, that has a debt-to-income ratio over 2 to 1, this would ruin them. Absolutely ruin them. So many fewer people will be able to buy houses. So many fewer people will be able to save for retirement. And what this bill does is it guarantees that the next time there is a Democratic Congress that has control of the White House, why stop at the SAVE plan? Why not just codify something way more aggressively, right? So, this, in some ways, this might virtually guarantee that the next time Democrats hold control of Congress, we see something like the SAVE plan codified. So I don't think that this is something that should be something that you panic over, but I do think if this would hurt you dramatically, that you should make your voice heard. So how do you do that? You can Google contact my senator, right? And share your opinion about this legislation. This is a proposal coming out of the Senate. In particular, if your senator is in the Republican caucus, I'm not sure it will matter or not, but it is your democratic right to voice your opinion. Now, I'm not telling you what you should say. That's not my right. That's not my prerogative, right? But if I were a borrower, I'll tell you what I would say. Hey, if I was already a borrower, I would say, my promissory note said that I could pay under the new IBR plan. I made decisions and life choices based off of that promise, and you are not honoring any of the terms that I borrowed under. That's what I would say. And then if your decision would be that you would vote against them in the next election, you should tell them that, and tell them why, because of that not honoring basic promises, right? And if I was currently in school, I would be specific. I would say, this could wreck me. This could destroy my finances. I went to this school based off of the expectation in the law that I can pay based on income-based repayment. It's fine if you want to change the law for people who have not already made major life decisions about this yet, but to change it midstream on folks that have already made major commitments, it's not like you can undo going to 2 years of dental school. You can't undo that. right? Or you could, but you'd be even more wrecked than if you completed it, right? So I would just say, things would be grandfathering, honoring promises that were made. If you want to reform the future, fine, but the promises that were made should be kept. And, Parent Plus borrowers, if you have any Parent Plus loans out there, tell them what would happen to your retirement prospects. It would go away completely if you're not already on an income-driven repayment plan by the time this bill passes. I do expect this bill would create very many opportunities for legal challenges in the courts. Now, with the current composition of the courts, who knows what would happen? But, I think what can you do? Contact your senator. If you have Parent Plus loans, apply for ICR immediately. If you're not already on an IDR plan and you have to consolidate to get onto ICR if you have Parent Plus loans. If you are already an existing borrower, you're in the save forbearance. If you're in IBR, if you're in something like that Pay, for example, you'll be moved to old IBR automatically. You don't actually have to do anything if you're already on an IDR plan. And then if you are in school, contact your senator, tell them how this bill would wreck you, because in many cases it would. And if you are, not signed on the dotted line for your upcoming, school year, then, I would, wait till this bill passes before putting any deposits down if you can at all help it, because this is an absolute mess. Absolute mess. So if you have any comments, put them in the comments. We will do our best. I was literally about to go on vacation, which, I don't deserve vacation. Nobody, but whatever. Who cares? This is important for borrowers. I'll do my best to help you guys. Our team will do our best to help you guys. Just put the questions in the comments. And, we just got to wait and see. This is the Senate version. It's going to go back to the House. They're going to debate it. But they're very clearly throwing the gauntlet that they want to absolutely end almost every student loan forgiveness thing they can possibly end, without regard to what it'll do to the economy and borrowers and people in school, and just, it's an absolute mess. But we're going to stay on a positive note. We're going to keep following this for you. We're going to give you the breaking news, what you need to know, how it affects your finances, how it affects your family. Just, follow Student Loan Planner for more stuff like this. And I promise it won't all be depressing. Again, remember what I said. A super partisan bill that passes that's this extreme would probably result in a very partisan bill that's also very extreme in the other direction once Democrats have full control over D.C., which would very likely happen at some point in the next at least couple decades, just statistically, right? So put your questions in the comments, and thank you all for following Student Loan Planner.